It's a Tuesday edition of PFT OT. Just 6 days until PFT Live is back on NBC Sports Radio and NBCSN. Plenty of things still happening, though, in the NFL. Training camps opening, and the NFL taking care of business. On Friday, we found out that Chiefs receiver Tyreek Hill would not be suspended as a result of multiple potential violations of the personal conduct policy for which he was investigated. Coincidentally or not, the NFL held until the next business day the news that Seahawks defensive lineman Jarran Reed would be suspended 6 games under the personal conduct policy, even though he wasn't arrested, wasn't charged, but the NFL decided he had violated the personal conduct policy as a result of a domestic violence incident. Now, the problem with this, and this really speaks to the heart of the NFL's investigative procedures and the power the NFL has, or more accurately, doesn't have, to get the information that it needs. In Reed's case, I'm told that the alleged victim cooperated with the NFL. If the victim says I'm not cooperating, good luck getting the information that you need in order to come to the conclusion that a violation of the personal conduct policy has occurred. And that's what happened in Hill's case. Because the underlying child abuse investigation involves a minor, there's an exception to the open records law in Kansas, and the Johnson County, Kansas prosecutor was able to tell the NFL, we're not giving you any evidence. We're not giving you any documents. So the NFL had no opportunity to delve into the details as to what did or didn't happen and who was or wasn't suspected. And remember, the prosecutor in Tyreek Hill's case said back in April that he believes a crime was committed against Tyreek Hill's 3-year-old son. The prosecutor just didn't believe he could prove who actually did it. So there's evidence there somewhere of something happening to this child. But in Hill's case, the NFL couldn't get to it. In Jarran Reed's case, the NFL could. And I think that, more than anything else, should prompt the NFL to take a step back and say, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to be our own police force and justice system when we lack the powers of a police force or justice system? It's one thing if you're investigating wrongdoing among NFL employees or team employees, and there's a way to compel people who are on the payroll to cooperate. But they have no power over people who are disconnected from the NFL. And that's why there was such a discrepancy between Hill and Reed, and I think that's why the NFL held Reed's decision, held the news of the suspension until Monday. It would have been too glaring if it had come out on the same day that we found out that Tyreek Hill was not going to be suspended. We are awaiting word that Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons have a long-term contract in place. I continue to hear that people within the league believe that there's a deal already in place, and they're waiting for the one-year anniversary of last year's contract adjustment. Last year it was July 26th. This year, July 26th or thereafter, look for Julio Jones to get his new contract. Now, other receivers waiting to see what their colleagues may be getting, waiting to see what Jones gets, waiting to see what Michael Thomas gets, waiting to see what others get, and that may be why Amari Cooper, the Cowboys receiver, but reportedly in no hurry to do a long-term deal in Dallas. Another reason he's in no hurry, unlike some of these younger receivers like Tyreek Hill and Michael Thomas, who are making low money, relatively speaking, in the 4th year of their contracts, Cooper is in that option year, and he was a top 10 pick. He's getting more than $13 million in salary this year. He's got all the leverage. He can sit back and wait. And remember, we made this point several months ago to the chagrin of Cowboys fans who don't like us stirring up ideas for their players who can come together and say to the team, and this is what Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott could say, we're not signing a contract until after next year's deadline for the franchise tag. You will tag one of us, and the other one will become a free agent. And between Cooper and Prescott, chances are it's Prescott who would be tagged, and Cooper would then become a free agent. But he's going to carry the injury risk for one more year. But there's an upside waiting for Amari Cooper, and that's ultimately why he has no problem waiting for that long-term deal. Tom Brady's still waiting for his next long-term deal, or as the case may be, a short-term deal. He's in the final season of the latest team-friendly contract that he did with the Patriots. And it always makes me laugh to call it team-friendly because he usually gets a gigantic pile of money up front. Last time around, it was a $30 million signing bonus. But still, annual average far below what the best quarterbacks in the NFL are making, and it was reported by NFL media on Monday that there's no extension in sight for Brady. Now, he's got the same quirk that applies to Julio Jones. They have to wait 1 year after last year's adjustment that was done by Tom Brady. Remember, last year, he was given the opportunity to earn up to $5 million in incentives based on 5 different categories. And it was $1 million per category, and he ultimately hit none of those triggers. So he got no extra money last year, even though the Patriots were trying to give it to him. And look, after this year, he becomes a free agent. Now, the Patriots presumably would apply the franchise tag if they want to keep him around. But you just have to wonder what kind of late career contractual acrimony could ultimately happen between the Patriots and Brady, especially because there's a persistent belief, and Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston is the one who clued me in on this, that Brady wants to get paid as much or more than his former understudy, Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo is making $27.5 million per year in San Francisco. Brady making far less than that. Andrew Luck is making less than $25 million per year. He was not that long ago the highest paid player in the NFL, but more and more quarterbacks have leapfrogged him, and it's hard for him to complain that he's underpaid because he's been injured for much of the last couple of years. But last season he was healthy. Last season he was effective. And now heading into training camp, that calf problem that knocked him out for a lot of the offseason program apparently resolved. He's good to go. He's ready to go. But keep an eye on it, because if it's not fully and truly 100%, it can get aggravated easily. Any type of muscle injury in the legs, hamstring, quad, calf, once it grabs, if it isn't completely and totally healed, it can grab again, and it can be a problem throughout the entire season for Andrew Luck. So here's hoping that he won't be limited by that, and the Colts are in position, if he's healthy, to build on the success that they had unexpectedly in 2018. I mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo a few minutes ago. The 49ers hold all the cards when it comes to Garoppolo's future after this year for one very important reason. The 49ers have been using, for at least the last 5 years, a device in how they structure their contracts that delays the vesting of guarantees until April the 1st of each year. Now, other teams either have guarantees become fully vested right after the start of the waiver period in February or right after the start of the league year in March. By delaying until April 1, the San Francisco 49ers give themselves an opportunity to look at all options. They can explore anything and everything that they would otherwise potentially do at quarterback, whether it's trade for someone, whether it's sign a free agent, whether it's do as much due diligence as possible on the incoming class of rookies if they finish high enough in the draft order and in turn low enough in the standings to get themselves in position for one of the top incoming quarterbacks. And meanwhile, you have until April 1 to make that decision on what you're going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. So that contractual structure, waiting until April 1 to have the guarantees fully vest, works to the benefit of the team. And I'm talking about that today because Agent Doug Hendrickson, really the first agent to publicly call out the 49ers for using that contract structure, calling it BS, although he didn't say BS. Plenty of agents have been complaining about it privately over the years, and no one's really taken a stand. The 49ers say this is the way we do our deals, and what happens is the agents just go along with it because here's the thing. If you don't take the money, someone else will. And someone else will agree to that structure. And until the agents and the NFLPA come together and say, we reject this structure, the 49ers are going to continue to do it. And the amazing thing is, other teams haven't used that structure. It's just the 49ers. And it does give them more flexibility than other teams have when deciding whether or not to keep a guy who's got some guaranteed money that's about to fully vest, and it vests on April 1. And before April 1 of 2020, it could be the 49ers decide to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to move on until the next PFT OT. No show, if this really is a show. I don't know what this is, but no edition of PFT OT on Wednesday. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll do another one on Friday. And then comes the triumphant or otherwise return of PFT Live next Monday. Have a great day. Check us out around the clock at ProFootballTalk.com, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.